Let's dive into a mildly useful C++17 feature named optional. So what exactly is std optional? Well, it's a utility that represents a value that may or may not be there. Instead of returning unexpected values or using workarounds, std optional gives us a clean and explicit way to handle missing data. Think of it as a bool flag attached to a variable, indicating whether it is set or not. Now, let's look at some practical applications of std optional. For example, we can use it as a return value type for functions that might fail. Let's see an example. Here we have a function that optionally returns string, in this case the email of the user. If we check for user ID 1, we would get user1@example.com. Let's test the code. We call the function with user ID 1 and it should correctly return with user 1's email. And as you can see, the output is correct. If we check for user ID 2, we get an empty string. But what if we ask for a non-existent user ID, like 19? This is the exact point where optional comes in handy. We can indicate that there is no user with user ID 19 by returning a null optional value. You might ask, couldn't we just return an empty string? Yes, but then we wouldn't know if the user didn't exist or the user just doesn't have an email address, like in the case of user 2. So this way, we can differentiate between getting an error while searching for an email and just simply having no email set. For user ID 19, it correctly returns user not found. Another great use case for optional is handling function parameters that may or may not have a value. It lets us pass an empty optional instead of using special default values, like null or null pointer. Here is an example code snippet and the output.